Hello everyone and welcome to today's watch party for SmackDown. They've announced plenty of matches. We have Xavier Woods challenging Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. We have the Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez taking on Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. We also have no DQ, likely our main event. Matt Riddle taking on Solo Sikoa and plenty more in there. This should be a nice chill stream, much as it was earlier. And we're just going to, hopefully, watch a good SmackDown. We can never guarantee it anymore because it's a lot of up and down. But what I can say, Vince McMahon's not there, which should hopefully be a good sign. I did just see, I believe the very first person to show up on the SmackDown graphic was actually Liv Morgan, which is a pretty good sign overall for her. So we'll start off by saying hi to everyone. Peter, Andy, Connor, Steve, welcome everybody. Peter wants a hell yeah, so hell yeah you can. Steve says, say, Tom, not watching live due to the hockey playoffs, but I'll linger in here and listen to your play-by-play on the side. Hopefully we'll do some play-by-play because, to be honest, with these watch-alongs, there's so many of you. Usually, I'm just chatting away, and it's just the way I see it with the watch parties. You guys are already watching the show, so I don't really need to worry too much about that, but I'll give you some play-by-play and watch some wrestling with some friends. Eric is here as well saying, hi, Tom. How are you doing? Doing very well, thank you, Eric. Welcome to the show. And Mark is here saying, evening Tom, really enjoyed the stream earlier. Good to know, Mark. Hope you're feeling better yourself as well. Megan's here as well on the Twitch side saying hello. Welcome, Megan. How are you? We're at Ohio State University. They're plugging Progressive as per usual. One of the longest standing advertisers and partners at this point. They're immediately hyping up. There's been no cold open or anything like that. We're going straight into hyping up matches. They're hyping up the Women's Tag Team Championship. They're hyping up the Intercontinental Championship. I would hope one of these matches would main event tonight, but I suspect it's still Bloodline. Yep, tonight's main event has been confirmed. Matt Riddle taking on Solo Sikoa. Connor says, I'm currently playing Football Manager, watching SmackDown, and you at the same time. Multitasking at its finest. That's exactly how it should be done. Exactly how it should be done. I don't watch as much. Sorry, I don't play as much Football Manager as I used to during my work days, but certainly I still slip them in every now and then. Megan says, doing okay, looking forward to this being a decent show. Fingers crossed. We are opening with Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They will be taking on the LWO. Judgment Day, as I did mention, are about to have one hell of a year, and it's definitely started out strongly. They are featuring in a prominent position on both Raw and SmackDown. The draft will likely put an end to that. But when it comes to Backlash, Bad Bunny is going to be involved with them. They're still working with Rey Mysterio. They're definitely getting a lot of attention at the minute, including on Monday Night Raw when they worked alongside the Bloodline. Christian says, do you know if the budget cuts are going to affect the talent themselves or just the backstage crew? I do, Christian, and I was able to report that during spoiler warning earlier. Pop over to spoiler warning, go about half an hour in, and we dive into it in a lot of detail on that one, including the WWE's plan to recoup as much of the intended budget cuts as possible by increasing money using their globalization strategy. We're getting another Bad Bunny recap at this point. What I do like about this segment with Bad Bunny, where they essentially set up what would happen at Backlash, is that Damian Priest was shown to be able to hand himself, but he was the only one. Dominic Mysterio, not so much. Eric says, how long do you see Gunther keeping the belt for? A while ahead, yeah, a while ahead. Mark, I wander back and forth. I play the local team a little bit. I like to drop down and play with Kidderminster, like 6 leagues down. I explore quite a few. Connor says, in my current save, I sinned all the way to 2040, took over an English team that had fallen a bit. Nice. Nice. Sorry to hear that, Mark. Christian says, what does the WWE Twitch deal mean for wrestlers outside of the WWE, but is still tied to the WWE in a way like I guess the party? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing to them. So we're starting SmackDown with a match. There was no cold open. There was no opening promo. We're going straight into wrestling, which is a pretty good spot to be at. No sign as of yet of either Dominic Mysterio or Rhea Ripley, but I can't imagine for a moment that's not going to last. Yes, Eric, I did play some in school, but for most of the year I skipped it. I didn't start really liking football until I was in my 20s. Damien Priest rocking a new outfit, I tell you that. Looks good with all the laces, but that must have taken ages to tie up. I'll be interested to see if maybe the Bloodline and the Judgment Day union lasts a little longer, with Judgment Day called in to do a good old-fashioned NWO run-in in tonight's main event. The Usos will be balanced by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. If we then get Judgment Day coming down, LWO coming down, we could end up with a lot of carnage to finish the show. I'd be very happy with that. We are off. It's been a little while since I've opened SmackDown with a match. Honestly, I'm kind of happy with it. I'd imagine then the draw segment will be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Megan says some eye candy to open the show. Good. Good. I agree. Joey says, why are there a bunch of rematches on SmackDown? I don't think there's necessarily too many rematches. I don't think we've seen much of Viking Raiders, Braun Strowman, Ricochet, for example. I don't think we've seen all that much of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. And I definitely don't think we've seen Xavier Woods versus Gunther. So I don't necessarily think we have seen as many rematches as you seem to be suggesting. Connor says QPR had fallen to League 2, so I took them over. Won the league first season, currently top of League 1 as well. Dylan says, hi Tom, sorry for missing your stream. No worries, Dylan. One thing I do say when it comes to... Because quite a few people have, over the many years I've been doing it, have apologised for missing a stream, and it's just absolutely not necessary. I'm very appreciative when you make a stream. If you don't make a stream, oh well, we all have lives. And you can catch up if you want to. You can choose to miss that one. Whatever works for you. I'm not going to be coming down on people for not showing up to every single show. Just not really a benefit to me, you know? Live your life, mate. Have a good time. Joey says it seems like these past shows have mostly been filler until we get to the draft. I do feel there's an element of that. I definitely feel there's an element of that, and I think you're onto something there. It's unfortunate, but that kind of is the situation as we'd expect it. It's just difficult to be able to say, first and foremost, what this was supposed to be in this particular period between WrestleMania and Backlash, because the draft was supposed to be earlier, but then Vince McMahon got involved. Eric says, I know Priest is enjoying the feud with how big a fan of Ray he is. He is, and I also feel this is a bit of a return to prominence for Damien Priest. The Bad Bunny connection has brought him back into the forefront, and also he's wrestling a little more now. I don't know whether it was him carrying a knock or an injury for a while, but certainly he's a lot more featured now than he was. Connor says, sorry, what was that word you used? A life? Never heard of this before. To be fair, mate, you do live in a cupboard. And Peter says, I'm not allowed a life, it's either work or sleep, but hey ho. Joey says, I hope we get a lot of good call-ups. I'm worried Vince will change plans and only call up the people he wants. He won't. He has been making changes, but he hasn't rewritten everything Triple H has done. He's been making tweaks, he's been making plans, and ultimately, he's been making some decisions for next year's WrestleMania with that in mind. Ronda Rousey is a big part of that. The draft will determine who Ronda Rousey faces at WrestleMania, and that is where a lot of focus is from Vince McMahon. There's also a juggling act to consider. They will shortly have to renegotiate the deal for the TV rights with both Fox and USA Network, so they need to balance these rosters out to make sure that Fox and USA are very happy with who they have, particularly when you consider that Fox specifically requested Charlotte Flair, and then she took a year off. Megan says, oh well, there go my hopes of Dragunov versus Gable then. Sadly, yes. Chad Gable's been used a lot more and he's been able to show what he can do, but I don't think he's in any better position really under Triple H than he was under Vince McMahon. Hey, hello Sean, how are you? How are you doing? Dylan says, did you hear Dolph Ziggler wanting a match against Conor McGregor at WrestleMania next year? Yeah, I mean, it's Dolph Ziggler, and ultimately he is a wrestler, but he hasn't had a lot of attention on him for a while. So he could probably benefit from a big draw match like that. He has, after all, wrestled Goldberg previously, and that really didn't help anyone. Mark says, did you see Solo saying thank you to Ray on Raw? For the respect between them is cool. And Adam likes chickens. Interesting. Yeah, I did spot that, Peter. A botch, I believe Finn Balor having to save that one just by basically acting like he was hit when he wasn't. A rare botch for this combination of people, but they're making it work. Joey says, Ilya Dragunov versus Volta in a third match on the main roster would be fire. Yes, it would. Those two in particular do not miss. Sean says, why is Finn wrestling with staples in his head? I don't know. I'd imagine they've taken the staples out by now, to be fair, but I don't know. I know it's a tag match, so he's not exactly balls to the wall, as it were, but he's still having to work really hard to keep up with the people in the ring with him. It's a risk that he's taking, a real genuine risk. I don't really know how much credit I want to give him when there is a major risk of additional injury. But yeah, it is what it is. For those who don't know, who maybe weren't at the show earlier, I will be doing a mock draft with the OLE, our local establishment channel. I'll be representing SmackDown alongside our very own Parrish and our very own Ed. Ed will be representing NXT and Parrish will be representing Raw. And we'll be doing ourselves a mock draft. Hopefully you guys join us for that one. I would certainly have a lot of fun with it. And I'll be seeing if I can grab some clips to post as shorts myself of that particular one. I think I can just remix it. But it's not my account, so I'm not entirely sure. Yo, Kieran, how you doing, mate? But with the draft in mind, I'd like to ask you all, who would be your top 3 draft picks? 3 individual wrestlers around which you would want to build your own dedicated wrestling brand. Adam, Vince, in fact, did leave. He did leave. And also, eventually, the man's not going to be with us anymore. So, I know that you're saying he's never going to leave, but the day will come. And no, Mark, I did not see NXT this week. I don't regularly watch NXT because of when it's on. But yes, who would be your top 3 picks for your own brand that you would build a roster around? Dylan says, do you think Goldberg should get his retirement match? Because apparently he's promised one, but never got one. No. He had an amount of matches in his contract. He competed in those amount of matches, and then he moved on. No, Christian, I have no information on that one, unfortunately. Mark's very excited about Cherry Coke. So, we're getting some answers in. Connor starts by saying Gunther, then says Shinsuke Nakamura and Chad Gable. Oh. Pardon me. That's a great combination right there. Kieran says AJ, Rhea Ripley and Gunther. Again, very good shouts. There's definitely a style, very much a style there. Rhea being able to bridge the gap in power between Gunther and AJ, and also I think AJ would sell incredibly well for that. Peter suggests Jay White, Commander and Gunther. Adam says Bray Wyatt, Karrion Kross and Braun Strowman. Hello, Wade. Ring Scoops, how you doing? Says Mr. Colohue, hope your day night is going well. Going very well, thank you. I've just asked the chat the question, Ring Scoops, so let me ask it to you. With the draft coming up, who'd be your personal top 3 picks? Let me know. Sean says Shinsuke's facing LA Knight in a post-show dark match. Awful for Shinsuke. Yes, if it is just a dark match. If it's not just a dark match, different thing. Megan says I'd go for Rhea, Rollins and Gunther for my picks. Everyone so far seems very interested in Gunther, I'll tell you that, which is a very, very good sign. Andy Barr says Cody, Liv Morgan, and then... Okay, Andy, you've picked 4 people there. I need you to try that one more time. 3 individual wrestlers. I did make that clear. Dylan says Roman, Brock and The Undertaker. Mark says Gunther, Dragunov and Austin Theory. Hey Hassan, how you doing, mate? Welcome to the show. Kieran wants to include a tag team, which is AJ, Rhea and DIY. Unfortunately, you will have to drop someone in order to make room for both DIY. Mark is saying for the women, you'd go Rhea, Bianca and Charlotte Flair. So I'm guessing that will be all that you choose. Adam says, was Vince ever going to bring Braun Strowman back? Any thoughts on that or info? There was interest in bringing Braun Strowman back, but he would have had to accept a major pay cut. Under Vince McMahon, he wasn't willing to do that, but over time, he did change his mind. Christian has listed 6 different people. So unfortunately, Christian, I accept that you're given 2 different options, but I'm going to need you to pick 3 individuals. Pete says, there's always one. Usually it's me. Eric says 1 Roman, 2 Rhea, 3 Roxanne. That's the first mention of Roman Reigns so far, which is very interesting. The first mention of Roman Reigns. Now we got Andy Barr's gone with Cody, Liv and Johnny Gargano. I think Cody and Johnny could have fantastic matches, I'll tell you that. Sean says Becky, Alexa and Cody. I like that. Ringskew says my first 3-round picks would be LA Knight, Gunther and Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae is a perfect shout for this. After all, she's very well versed in intergender wrestling. Very good shout. Joey says it must have been depressing reporting on those budget cuts last year. Yeah, a lot of my live shows when budget cuts go live are actually still up. And while in many ways, because of the ad hoc nature, because people are looking for info, they can be quite successful, it is depressing, and you can see my mood is not particularly high. I remember the day that the Iconics were let go, and yeah, I really wasn't happy with that. Really wasn't happy. Connor says, not as many Romans as I thought there would be. Agree with that. Not what I expected either. Christian says, got it. Cody, Gunther and Cora. Very nice. Very nice. We look like we're heading into the crescendo of this tag team match now. We're nearly 20 minutes in. Rey Mysterio just tagged in Santos Escobar. Still no sign of a Dominic or a Rhea. I thought Finn Balor was going to get pinned then, but it turns out he's not legal. Looks like the bad guys might pick up the win here. Welcome, Brad. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the show. Not much height there from Santos Escobar, a bit disappointing. And Damian Priest pins Santos Escobar, who has in many ways been the jobber of the feud. It's still not a bad place to be when you're in the ring with Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and of course, Rey Mysterio. But it's also not the best place to be. Eric thinks it can go one better. Jay White and Liv and Raquel as a team. Nice. Connor says, it appears in my 3 I did forget women exist. Little bit. Christian is asking, are Humberto and Angel still stuck in catering? Pretty much yes. There are no creative plans in place for them at the moment. While they continue to build the tag division, they do need to separate the championships in order to create some further opportunities there. Yeah, I'm keeping track of this, Peter. I'm keeping track because my number 1 draft pick, I know it's going to be Rhea Ripley. I know it's going to be Rhea Ripley. That'll definitely be the one for me. After that, it gets a bit trickier. I don't think I'm getting Roman unless I'm picking first. If I'm picking first, I'm getting Roman. But I don't think I'll have the opportunity. So I'll have Rhea, I'll have Dominic, and then there's going to be a scrap for Gunther, but I'll probably take Styles. So AJ Styles, Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley. That's how I'd be starting a draft, I tell you. Damian Priest mentioning the impending return of Bad Bunny. Decent promo, brief, good match as well. I'd give it a 6.5. Ultimately, it still helps get Santos and, in fact, all of the new LWO over, and that's a very good thing. Plus, to be honest, as I say, Damian Priest back properly in action. It can only be a good thing. Joey says, why does the LWO keep jobbing? In order for someone to win, someone's got to lose. Kieran says, this is a catering literally what it is? People fly, drive from city to city just to sit in catering. Yes. That's actually exactly what it is. They are contractually obligated to be on site for Raw or SmackDown, depending on the draft, the brand that they're on. But there will always be almost double the amount of people there than they actually need. And if there's a problem, they'll rotate. Peter, I agree there, saying Kieran, I would sit in catering on their money. He loves Priest laugh as well. James, you alright, mate? Says, do we reckon any returns or debuts coming soon? Yes, but in the draft. I think we're going to start hearing about the Alexa Blisses, the Bray Wyatts, the AJ Styleses when we get to the draft. Connor's changing to Gunther, Nakamura, and Rhea. Rhea Ripley, definitely the most mentioned woman. Now, we have just had our opening match, that tag match. Can you let me know what you thought of it? Mark has given it a 7 out of 10. I personally went 6.5. What did you think? Ringscube says, speaking of the Iconics, I greatly miss Peyton Royce. I do believe the day is coming when the Iconics return to the WWE, but that is just my opinion. Peter gives the match an 8, very high praise for an opening tag match of SmackDown. Andy Barr gives it a 7 as well. Some pretty good scores, which tells you a lot, especially when you consider that there was a bit of a botch in there as well. Easily forgotten when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Connor gives the match a 6 out of 10 as well. Now, just while we're doing that, please do remember we have 25 people watching at the moment, but only the 9 likes. Only the 9 likes. We haven't quite hit double figures for likes yet. So if you're able to, please consider hitting that like button. It does really help the growth of the channel and guarantees more people joining, more people finding, more people subscribing, and ever so slightly closer to full-time Colohue. Have you got a weak spot for Ray, Peter? Ray's still doing fantastic work. He really is. It's really helping to get Dominic over. At the moment, obviously, he's moved sort of sideways from Dominic. And he's helping work with Finn and with Damian. Damian Priest, we know, has an amazing upside. I think it's very telling that he's getting the pins and not Finn Balor. Finn Balor, in many ways, is there as an enhancement talent himself. Dylan bucking the trend slightly, giving the match a 5 out of 10. Still, overall, a good rating when you consider that this is just the opening match of a SmackDown. Peter says that could be your ring name, full-time Colohue. I mean, I feel like the Logan Pauls of the world, the Roman Reigns of the world, wouldn't quite be happy with that one. I wouldn't hate that, because that means I could wrestle them. Connor says we do need some FTT in our life, full-time Tom. FTT, I like it. I mean, I suppose you could do FTC, the full Tom Colohue. I mean, if you want to be insane, that works. I don't think anybody actually wants the full Tom Colohue, but we are where we are. Megan says, I'd give it a 7. Good to watch, but nothing too memorable. Yes. Sean says, would Vince want the Iconics back? It depends. It really does depend. I can't guarantee it at this point. After all, I have spoken about the fact that Triple H has reached out and contacted them. There was a reasonable delay at the time. We're not quite there yet, but I'd imagine contact did continue. Haven't had an update, unfortunately. Peter Engelfield turned into Barney Stinson there, and or what, mate? Or what? SmackDown has just started, and in many ways, I'm pretty happy overall so far with the show. Having it given us... Oh, men, ooh, I getcha. As someone familiar with the phrase ooh, I should definitely know that one. Definitely know that one. So yes, only 25 minutes in so far, but I'm happy with SmackDown. The commercial breaks haven't been too egregious. The opening action was good. We haven't been overloaded with the old 20-minute promo just yet. Which, it's always awkward when there's a lot of promos and I've got a headphone in and I'm talking over myself. Bit awkward. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Next week on SmackDown is when the draft begins. Naturally, I will be live for that. There'll be plenty of draft content released over the course of the next week on this channel. Zelina Vega is backstage of Adam Pearce. She's talking draft, and hopefully the fact that she's on her own means that she's challenging Rhea. She's challenging Rhea. I gotta be honest, I'm thrilled to see her get this opportunity. Absolutely thrilled. She's making a compelling argument. the height disparity is going to be quite entertaining, I'll say that. Rhea Ripley will definitely be down for that match. Why is she holding a flip-flop? Now, ideally, I'd like to see her have a qualifying match of some sort. Get a women's match on SmackDown card, you know. I know there's already one, but it'd be a great match, I'll tell you that. James says, after this sale of the WWE, do you see the blood comes into the shows or another show being created like Raw or SmackDown? Unfortunately, for this question, no to either. I don't necessarily see either one happening. I don't think there's any actual impact on it. We are getting a vignette on Shinsuke Nakamura. This is promising stuff. Christian says, Ted DiBiase Jr.'s charge is such a huge coincidence knowing his father's ring name. Very true. Very true. This is good stuff. I'm enjoying this. This is going to be a big help for Nakamura going forwards. The phrase inescapable submission hold suggests a huge change in what Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be doing in ring. Sean says, I'm not sure how YouTube can post matches from live events and from Raw and SmackDown without getting copyrighted by WWE. If WWE isn't doing that, it's not really a problem. Also, they might be getting copyrighted. They might be unmonetized. Have you considered that? That they're not monetizing it, and instead they're letting WWE monetize it, and they're getting the growth without worrying about the money. The vignette has been interrupted by Karrion Kross, who's backstage playing cards with Scarlett Bordeaux. They're trying to re-establish Karrion Kross as a threat, but I suspect Backlash will feature Karrion Kross versus Shinsuke Nakamura as a restart for Shinsuke. Dark Society says, hey Tom, sorry I haven't been joining the live streams the last few times, haven't been feeling good. No worries, mate, no worries. If you can't make it, you can't make it. You have your own life to live, and I very much appreciate you joining us regardless. Okay, so part of this Karrion Kross rebuild is basically to show him getting battered by Drew McIntyre. Not great. Andy Barr says the tag teams drafted together. They have not clarified that as of yet. They've not clarified it. Dylan says, do you think Jon Moxley will ever come back to WWE? Yes or no? Yes, I think he will get a Hall of Fame induction as part of the Shield. I think he'll return purely for that. James says, I always thought WWE would do a dark show which is streamed and really dark matches and blood, etc. Could be fun. Could be very fun. An after hours thing. Christian says, Zelina definitely deserves it, seeing how her reign as Queen of the Ring was underwhelming. Ricochet is on his way down to the ring. A second tag match. The first hour will just be tag matches. Ricochet and Braun Strowman taking on the Viking Raiders. We have a third tag match later in the night for the Women's Tag Team Championships and two individual singles matches, one for the Intercontinental Championship and one no DQ between Solo Sikoa and Matt Riddle. Quite a varied show, to be honest here. Peter says, as regards Nakamura, it looks like he's bulked up a bit. Also says, who let Kross have a mic? It wasn't bad. The promo wasn't bad. James saying what I completely agree with. Kross needs to win a few times before he thinks he's a threat. They shouldn't have shown him getting beaten up by Drew McIntyre. That was a bad shout. Joey says, I think Karrion Kross should move to Raw and be built up as the next challenger to Austin Theory. Not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. I like where you're going with it. I'm just going to do a tweet, advertise the show a little bit. Since they got rid of all the blue ticks, I don't know about you guys, but my views have gone up. I think it's because there's no longer so many people to celebrate. So what have we got? They definitely shouldn't have shown Kross getting demolished by Drew McIntyre if they're trying to build him as a threat to Shinsuke, Nakamura, or a Gunther. I'll drop the link for the show and leave that there. Moxie, how you doing, mate? Says, Tom, what did I miss? We opened with a tag team match, LWO versus Judgment Day, a new combination of that selection. We are about to go into Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus the Viking Raiders. You've missed a vignette for Shinsuke Nakamura and Karrion Kross. So far, so good. Not enough to really be able to judge, but if this was the entire show, I'd probably still tune in for it. Dylan says, do you think Roman will get 3 Hall of Fame inductions? One for himself, one for the Shield, and one for the Bloodline? Yeah. Yes, I do. That's exactly what I think. I think he'll be record-breaking Hall of Famer 3 times. Definitely the Shield will be inducted. I think Seth Rollins will be a 2-time Hall of Famer as well. Jon Moxley will just get the 1. Dark Society says Pedro Morales' title reign is 1,027 days. Roman will pass him on June 23rd. Feels like he's been champion forever, and I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with it. We've just broken our first 100 views. I don't expect this particular show to be the most attended, because there is... So how YouTube generally works is there are a few major metrics for the live shows. I've already discussed most of these, chat rate, likes, and so on and so forth. But there's also metrics that basically govern the entire channel. If you have what's called a high click-through rate, which essentially means people see your video and then choose to click your video, pretty much guaranteed, a high click-through rate will guarantee that YouTube will advertise your video to more people. My click-through rate is about 5%, which actually isn't bad in the grand scheme of things. It means every 1 in 20 people who see my videos click on them. I think that's pretty good overall, considering that YouTube is still working out who my audience is. There's one other which is called average view duration. If I have a show and I have, so for example, 3,000 viewers, my average view duration, because so many new people are joining, would be down at about 30 seconds. So the people who drop in, see that it's not actually SmackDown, it's just a random guy talking about it, and aren't really there for it, and leave after 2 seconds, really drag the average down. And then you've got those of you who are here for 2 hours. Those of you who are here for 2 hours obviously drag the average up. So if I have a show where I'm getting a load of viewers, 1, that's great, I've got the potential to have a whole lot of new subscribers, but 2, that's bad, because it's driving the average view duration down. So every now and then when I have a show with a much smaller view count, it's also a good thing, because that average view duration skyrockets and YouTube will advertise it to more people in future. There's a lot of juggling when it comes to learning about YouTube. A lot of juggling for that. But, you know, I think I've got a good grip of it now. Or at least I think I'm getting a good grip of it now. Peter, I'm not sure what you mean by Stephanie breaking up the New Day. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Would you be able to clarify? Sean says, Tom, what are your thoughts on this? It's been going around that fans have been bringing signs supporting Dana Brooke to Raw recently, and WWE has been confiscating those signs. What I will say is, let's say for example, just for argument's sake, that this isn't actually happening. Certainly it adds a lot more support to Dana Brooke, doesn't it? The WWE, as we know, are heels. The company, by and large, the Authority, Vince McMahon, have been heels for a long time because it helps get wrestlers over. So I don't know if this is happening, but just hypothetically, let's say it wasn't, but the WWE and Dana Brooke were making it look like it was. It's certainly got people talking about Dana Brooke more than they have done for a long time. More than they have done, I believe, since they had that selection of matches on... God, what's the main event? On WWE Main Event with her and Sarah Logan. Christian's comment. Thank you. Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah, Christian, I have no idea what you're talking about there. Would you be able to clarify, please? Joey says, I wonder if WWE will use any main roster talent for NXT EU. To my knowledge, there is no plan for that, though plenty of NXT talent will be used. Dylan says, did WWE always do inductions for tag teams, or is it a new thing? It's a relatively new thing. Was there a tag team this year? I don't believe there was. But it started out as historically, and then evolved as we went. Okay, so they just named Braun Strowman and Ricochet as a team Jack, Tanned, and Juicy. Does suggest that Braun Strowman's going to be in the tag team for a while. Like, I don't think he expected to be in a tag team when he came back, but we've got there and we're sticking to it. Viking Raiders are being introduced here. They may, particularly Vince McMahon, start asking for a lot more from Valhalla. I'll say that. Still not much of a reaction for the Viking Raiders. The issue I feel the disconnect with Viking Raiders is that they wrestle like faces. They use a lot of athleticism, a lot of high flying, a lot of good power. They don't wrestle like heels. And if you don't wrestle like heels, the fans won't boo you. So I feel that's kind of working against them. Kieran, in my knowledge, the 2020 draft wasn't necessarily a Stephanie McMahon thing. I mean, she came out and said, this person, I believe. But to my knowledge, they just popped up on the screen. Stephanie McMahon did not personally split anyone up. Brad Becker just says no. Joey says, do you think they'll open a performance center in Germany? I hear they have a big indie scene. Germany was considered to be one of the potential bases for NXT EU. There's pretty big communications going on with Germany in general, and they do find that could be very beneficial. Dark Society says, Tom, I'm still seeing your reaction when Roman beat Cody at WrestleMania. You could not believe it. Was the most shocking I've seen since Brock ended the streak. True, I recognised what was about to happen about a minute before it happened because Paul Heyman moved to another side of the ring. He moved off hard cam, so he was about to be involved in something. I then, at that point, knew exactly what was coming, but I still wasn't entirely ready for it. Connor says, my mate thought of a great name for Braun and Ricochet, which I really liked, that they should be called Bullet Train. Ooh, I like that. That's a good one. Yeah, Steph did announce it, Kieran. You're right. Okay. I get what you're saying, Christian. I get what you're saying. It's hard to remember sometimes because there's been a lot of drafts and Stephanie McMahon's been sort of in and about. Was 2020 the one where they leaked the exact list of people who were going to be drafted in order on WWE.com? So we were all just reading it out. That was a great day. Very confusing day, but a great day. It was. Cheers, Kieran. Ghost, how you doing? Says, hello, Tom and chat. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm super late, but at least I made it. Don't worry. I've said this a few times now. I'll say it again during this stream. I'm very, very grateful to everyone who's here, even if you're here for only a couple of seconds. And if you're not here, I'm still grateful because this channel is built on the back of all of you. I stand on the shoulders of giants when it comes to this because the way this channel works is based entirely on people watching. If there was nobody watching, I wouldn't be able to put on a show. It's almost entirely, spoiler warning, these watch-alongs, they're all engagement hoarding in so many ways, but you know, works for me, and it seems like you guys are having fun, so I'm happy with that. Braun Strowman is building up to the hot tag of this one. The Viking Raiders beating him down. Braun Strowman continues to sell a lot more than he did before he went away. It'll be very telling at this point because I think Vince McMahon might put a stop to that. And he says someone on WWE TV call Sonya and Chelsea's tag team complaint department. Kieran says, I miss Steph on TV. She was a great heel. I remember when the Authority was broken up and she was just screaming. The commitment was incredible. Kieran says, Bullet Train versus Bullet Club. I'd buy a ticket to see that. Just on the value of the names. Ricochet with the over-the-top flop. They're really pushing this highlight of the night business. Not sure, Peter. I didn't catch it. Dylan says, did that actually happen? The 2020 draft was leaked online. Yep. They did 2 separate days. And the first day, they literally... It wasn't automatically obvious that it was in order. And then they started actually reading out who was who, and you realised it was genuinely in order. Dark Society says, with the next batch of budget cuts coming soon, I feel bad for those people, but it's a business. It is, ultimately, and as I say, they are putting plans together which would sort of work around that. The idea that they're looking at different ways in which they can increase their revenue. The globalization initiatives are a huge part of that, and the money they make from the UK, from Puerto Rico, from potential deals with Australia, from potential deals with China, will offset a lot of that by increased revenue. But that's what Endeavour's looking for at the moment. They're looking at different ways to grow the WWE, different ways to bring in more money, and a large part of that, unfortunately, will be spending less. Connor says, I don't think WWE would ever call them Bullet Train, probably because the word bullet has violent connotations. It depends where you are in America. It should have violent connotations, but let's be fair. Lot of people who really like their guns in America. A lot of people at the moment getting shot for knocking on the wrong door or accidentally getting into the wrong car or pulling into a driveway. It's not a great time, you know? It's not a great time. Dylan says, could Roman be drafted to Raw this year? He could, yes. I don't necessarily think he will, but at the same time, I don't think Fox could argue that they've had plenty of Roman. Mark, yes, the plan for NXT Europe is a launch this year. William Regal is primarily the force behind it, trying to make it happen. There's a lot of people already being contacted. There's still a few things to cover. As I say, Germany's been looked at as a potential base, but the main reason they're looking at NXT Europe, and can I just be clear, it is NXT Europe, not NXT EU, because it does factor in the UK, whereas the UK is not a part of the EU. So I do just want to be clear, it's not NXT EU, it is NXT Europe. It's just that they need to be based in the EU, because the entire reason behind NXT UK was that it would be a European initiative, and then the UK left the EU, and it made it a lot harder to travel. They'd rather just have it be difficult to travel to and from the UK, rather than have it be awkward to travel everywhere. That's at least what they're planning. Sean says, could Regal get Kyrie for NXT Europe? I've already mentioned this one at some length. William Regal has been told, can you get Kyrie for us? Go and try. That's all I know. That's all I can say. Ghost says, this week is just super busy for me since I'm graduating next weekend. Oh, congratulations. So I'm just going to pop up when I can. Still glad I made it, though. And always glad to have you. By all means, pop up when and if you can. And when and if you fancy it. And yeah, congratulations. That's big news. That's wonderful stuff. I hope you have a great time. We're currently on 27 people watching and 15 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It does really help the growth of the channel. We are heading into the end of the first hour of SmackDown at the moment. The Viking Raiders are in the ring with Team, what was it? Jack, Tand and Juicy? I mean, it's the Banger Bros. That's what they were called, right? That's not the porn company. They're the Banger Boys? Joey says, grizzled young vets would be a fun team on the main roster if they got their old gimmicks back. They do want to leave, so I don't see that one happening. Good bit of camera work there from behind Braun Strowman as he got the hot tag. Bear with me 1 second, please, guys. I'm going to need to do a big sneeze. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm okay. It'll be interesting to see the end result here. The Viking Raiders have been built up recently, but they haven't got a lot of wins under their belt. They didn't win a WrestleMania. They couldn't pick up any wins really against McIntyre and Sheamus. And they just don't seem to be doing well overall. So the build doesn't really feel like much of a build. Oh, the meat train. Wade Barrett using the phrase the meat train is not what I want. Valhalla staring down Braun Strowman. As I say, they're going to be getting her a lot more involved. She seems to just be screaming weird noise there. Peter says Braun doing a Gunther drop kick. He's been doing them for a while, actually, the drop kicks. Sarah Logan really does need to calm down. She'll wreck her voice. I don't see Braun Strowman getting pinned here. That's not what Braun Strowman does. Splash from Ivar. Double pin. They could have done a lot better with that double pin, I'll tell you that. Hector says, just remember, Tom, they are very vicious after all. They are new and they are vicious. I believe this is the third new vicious incarnation of the Viking Raiders. Sean says Finn will get Valhalla in ring. I do, and I think it'll have to be sooner rather than later. Because let's just say they haven't seen much return on their investment so far. There's always a point. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. And Stuart says the dropkick from Braun was a surprise. He started doing that dropkick pretty much immediately after splitting from Bray Wyatt way back when. Braun gets attack. Ricochet in action. The Weekly Miracle Man. Just go back. Just steal the Neville line and call him the man that gravity forgot. You basically want to. We can hear it. We can hear how much you want to. Ricochet in full flip mode. Ivar, though, can compete with that. Never underestimate Ivar, but it feels like the finish is coming. After all, it's only 10 minutes until the draw segment. Strowman doesn't seem to qualify for draw segment anymore. Awkward big boo. Awkward. Peter says Neville was amazing, and I wholeheartedly agree. His run as Cruiserweight champion was fantastic. If they had just promised him an IC title run afterwards, which he would have fully deserved, I reckon they could have kept him. And the Viking Raiders have lost. Turns out he can only be so new and vicious. I'm still not over the fact that Braun Strowman wrestles in nipple piercings. It's weird. Peter suggests Neville has been wasted in AEW. I wouldn't go that far. He's put on great matches, but he certainly hasn't won much in the way of championships or anything. So it really depends what you're looking for. Sean says, with Vince back, will Scarlett be in ring more often? No. No. She's still training and preparing, as it were, for more in-ring work, but at the moment they don't have real plans for her to do that. James says, tag team matches starting to look better. Yeah, in general, the tag teams continue to improve. I do think there's definitely championship potential in this particular combination. Kieran says, I don't think Neville was wasted. He was trio champion, all-Atlantic champion. So he has a couple of championships. I think he was a founder, basically. He was one of the first ones they got. He turned up in Full Gear, and they named the pay-per-view Full Gear after all, which is a pretty good sign. Joey says, wasn't Neville supposed to win the IC title at Mania 32, but it didn't happen because he injured his ankle. He did unfortunately pick up a few injuries, which was quite unlucky. And Sean says, didn't Neville leave because he lost the Cruiserweight title to Enzo? No, not just because of that. He lost more because of how he lost the Cruiserweight title to Enzo and how little actual response he was able to give to that. Our draw segment is going to be the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are currently backstage looking a little bit hyper. So that's our second tag team match of the night. We're about to have our third. Before we get into that, though, let's rate the match. I think the stakes were low for Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus the Viking Raiders. I don't think we really trusted the Viking Raiders were going to put in that much of a threat, but they did. Braun sold quite well. There was a couple of sort of crowd-friendly moments. Nice couple of flips. The Viking Raiders showed up as well. Very happy with that. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for that one for me. Going a little bit higher in the chat. Mark saying an 8 out of 10. Brad giving it an 8 as well. Connor goes a little low with 6.5 out of 10. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez showing off their new look at our championship stance. Joey says, I hated the way Vince booked the tag division. He broke up almost every team. He did. It got bad under Vince. It's interesting then that the women's division has had a bit less under Triple H, but the tag divisions are doing a hell of a lot better. A hell of a lot better. And he gives it a 7 as well. Ghost is asking who has a better swanton, Kevin Owens, Ricochet, or Dana Brooke. I like that he didn't mention Jeff Hardy, and honestly, you can't mention Jeff Hardy anymore. It's disappointing, but you just can't. So unless this match lasts less than 10 minutes, which that's not impossible, this is going to be our draw segment. If you haven't already seen my video about Liv Morgan and the plans they have for her in the future, this seems further confirmation of what we were talking about. The fact that she's in draw segments, the fact that she's defending championships, the fact that she's on Raw and SmackDown week in, week out, they have big plans for Liv Morgan. She is, after all, the only... Well, she's one of the only women, I forgot about Ronda Rousey for a moment, to be on the banner for SmackDown. She's replaced Charlotte Flair there, and she's one of the only women to actually get a match on SmackDown. Connor says, I'm a tougher cookie to impress, it seems. And that's good to have. It's good to have people who maybe are a little bit harder to satisfy. Brad says, Vince hated tag team wrestling. He didn't. He just didn't seem to like teams. He seemed to get bored very quickly. Kieran says, all the cruiserweight stuff feels like decades ago. Well, to be fair, it was a very long time ago. It was, 2017, I think that? Which is 6 years ago. James feels like this will be a squash match. I wouldn't go that far. I think it'll be competitive, but I don't think it'll be 20 minutes competitive. Ghost says, I will say Jeff's most recent swanton looked great. Just didn't put him since his name is synonymous with the move. It is. It's very much a senton when anyone else does it. And Sean says, one breakup under Vince that everyone hated was a breakup of the Iconics. I still have no idea why that happened. It made absolutely no sense. None whatsoever. Joey says the cruiserweight division could have been good, but Vince didn't know how to book it. Dom says, late, but here, Tom and chat, don't forget to hit like. With 5 words for you, Tom Colohue, get the tables. Welcome, Dom. How you doing, mate? For those of you who haven't done so yet, we do have 27 people watching and only the 16 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. Stuart says KO had the best swanton just for the size of him. Not exactly a swanton-shaped guy, to be fair. Connor says, I do feel the Gunther versus Woods match might get a higher rating. Fair. If they're given enough time, I reckon they could really run something good there. Joey gives the match a 6 out of 10. Sorry, Peter gives the match a 6 out of 10. Joey says, did you get rid of the Cruiserweight title because they didn't have any more small guys? Not necessarily. They did sort of run out of Cruiserweight division, but also when it was in NXT, they just weren't really minded to have more championships. So, since nobody was competing for the championship, there was no point having it. I believe one of the last champions was Roderick Strong, who wasn't particularly happy to be competing for it. It's awkward for everyone involved. I feel a little more certain that we're going to have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez in the draft segment now. The draw segment now. Because if not, then there's only 5 minutes for Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green to make their entrance and compete in the match. Now, you can't really put it past WWE because, let's be honest, they've certainly done that before, but I don't necessarily think they're going to do that today. After all, it's all about Liv Morgan. Hector says, Tom, what do you think of Braun Breaker's heel turn? For me, I feel like it was much needed. He could definitely be the next dominant heel. I don't think it was necessarily needed, though I do feel his character did need a little more rounding. What I do think is that it gives him a huge opportunity to basically start off by feuding with someone like Sheamus. I think it's very unlikely now he's going to immediately be jumping in, taking on a Gunther, taking on a Austin Theory. But Sheamus could do great things with Braun Breaker. Great things with Braun Breaker. And I think Sheamus will do great things with Braun Breaker. Megan says, putting this out there, Dom wins Money in the Bank and makes his briefcase purple. Mammy graffiti optional. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. That's a good shout. Connor says they merged the title with the NA title if I remember correctly. Yes, I believe they did. They are pushing Riddle versus Solo Sikoa once again. They are not showing. There's no visibility there, which I found very interesting. No sign of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn behind Matt Riddle, though the Usos are in play. Mark enjoyed the Cruiserweight tournament. That was great stuff, and I hope one day they repeat it. Having Zack Sabre Jr. and Kota Ibushi involved was a big deal as well. And Eric says, Tom, do you like Chad Gable? Yes, I do. Man's got charisma, man's got talent, and I don't get why the man hasn't got a push. Sonya Deville starting us off with a microphone. Always a good sign. This, of course, was an emergency backup team and not really what I was expecting to become long-term. Chelsea Green, though, is another one who's getting featured quite regularly now, which tells me that people are very, very impressed with her work. That said, her entire attire seems to be borrowed entirely from Alicia Fox, particularly the hat. There's a Royal Rumble where Alicia Fox wears that. Little botch there. Sonya Deville encouraging her to keep going. Tom says, I never heard you answer this, but who was your best female wrestler? I couldn't choose just one. It's Rhea. For a long time I've been a fan of Becky Lynch, but there was a website that launched called Bell to Bells. I think it was 2017, 2018. Rhea Ripley had just moved from NXT UK to NXT. And I posted an article there just saying that in order for Rhea Ripley to survive, the WWE just need to get out of her way. Just get out of her way. And if the WWE just gets out of her way, she'll be absolutely unstoppable. And what we've seen since is the WWE get out of Rhea Ripley's way, and she's been absolutely unstoppable. I also am a big fan of Dakota Kai, by the way. In fact, the Mae Young Classic featuring Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley, I was a huge fan of that match. Joey says TJP was fun to watch, kind of disappointing he didn't get a real push besides the Cruiserweight division. You're right, Khalid. Eric says 5 to 7. Isn't it Vince guy supposed to be about 6? Oh, Gable. Right, gotcha. You're saying he's not tall enough. Well, don't forget that Vince McMahon has not been in charge of creative for the past 8 months or so. That was just Triple H, and yet Chad Gable didn't get that big a push. Sellotape in the eyebrow is a good shout, yep. Ghost says the water bottle is definitely going to come into play. It really stood out, that, didn't it? Definitely stood out. And Sean said the Cruiserweight title was unified with the North American title when Carmelo Hayes defeated Roderick Strong to unify the championships. Thanks for the clarification on that one, Sean. I did think that Roderick Strong had definitely been a part of it, had definitely been the last champion. I just couldn't remember the specifics. It's called Deville Sly. James says, I think the next Rumble, Rhea should go in the men's Rumble. It would be pretty cool. I think it'd be entirely unnecessary. I think she did pretty well in the Rumble that she had, and I'll give it that. Raquel throwing Chelsea Green around. Lots of whining, lots of complaining. Lots of very good work from Chelsea Green. The character work is very impressive. While I've got you, and before you go anywhere, I'm just going to post a link to my TikTok for anyone who does have or use TikTok. I do encourage you to follow over there as well. I create on TikTok the same shorts content that I make on YouTube. I essentially take my YouTube shorts and post them on TikTok as well. So please check them out if you haven't already. TikTok goes out to an entirely different audience and has really been a big help in aiding the growth of the brand overall. So if you're able to support, I'd be very appreciative. A little botch there as well. Liv Morgan going over the top rope, being caught by Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, and then it took them a second to actually drop. So, you know, little tiny botch. Nothing major, little tiny botch. Wade Barrett suggesting that if you camp outside the boss's office, you get more chances. After all, that's what Zelina Vega did earlier, so let's see how that one pays out. Slightly awkward side Russian leg sweep off the ropes from Chelsea Green onto Liv Morgan. Didn't look particularly smooth, but did look like it hurt. And to be fair, that's half the battle. Slight miscommunication there. I do like that Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville have made the effort to at least match a little bit. They've essentially matched in colour scheme, and that's kind of all, but it'll do. About to be a double DDT from Liv Morgan. Oh, okay, so it was the full double suplex, but that was clunky again. They're not quite in sync, Deville and Green, and I think they need to work on that. Eric says, how about Powerhouse and Chaos for Liv and Raquel's name? Well, the Chaos element definitely fits. Liv Morgan's been a bit of a spitfire. Raquel getting back into play now. Stuart says, Rhea's stare down with Solo on Monday was priceless. Rhea Ripley, don't back down from anyone. Peter, you're absolutely right. There are a few. Dom says, Rhea, I wasn't expecting a good pick. I was stuck between Charlotte and Becky. Definitely Rhea. I like who I like. I've spoken with Dakota Kai a couple of times before she joined the WWE. To be clear, she is not a source that I have. She's just someone that I've spoken to at times. And she's just a very good person. And a very talented wrestler with very good range. We've not really been able to see the best of her as of yet because she just hasn't been in long enough singles matches. But once those moments start coming, I think everyone will be impressed. Raquel Rodriguez has now tagged in. This match appears to be building to a crescendo, but it's only 6 minutes long. I expected there to be at least a commercial break in this one, but apparently not. Fall away slam on Chelsea Green. Bit of an awkward landing, I'll say that. The corkscrew elbow, there was no elbow. The run, there was no run. It's just a little out of sync, this one. Connor suggests back chaos, because you know Liv's crazy and, well, Raquel has a back. She does. And Brad said the good reporter never reveals their sources. Very true, but I do want to make it very clear Dakota Kai is not a source of mine. I've spoken to her in the past, briefly, before she joined WWE, and I just value her as a person and a talent. The crowd seem to be into this one, which is always a good sign as well. Liv Morgan with a drop kick, which I do like Liv Morgan's drop kick. Just a little bit vicious. The match isn't over yet, Peter. Calm down. Rating a match before it's over seems a bit premature. Unless you're way ahead of me and haven't spotted. Backstabber. We seem to be heading into the finish. Chelsea Green telegraphing her intent there by waiting on the rope. Joey says, oh, I don't know, Joey. I'm not particularly familiar with him. My experiences with Sean Ross Sapp are not positive. Well, the water bottle was indeed of use. Water bottle got involved there. That is a successful defense under the belt of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville can certainly complain that they were cheated there, but they were cheated in the same way they've been trying to cheat the whole time. The water bottle was indeed used. Most of it ended up on Liv Morgan anyway. Sunset cover. Very, very cleverly done. Very cleverly done. James, I'm not sure if Liv was tagged in. I suspect we get a rematch there. I very much suspect we're going to get a rematch. Which I wouldn't hate. I wouldn't hate it. I think they did good work, and I think there's more that they can do there. Kayla Braxton is backstage. She has a very, very fun collection of jackets, I've got to say. Like, that is an interesting jacket. We are introducing Matt Riddle here. Backlash will be 6-man tag rather than the actual rematch for the Tag Team Championship. We are starting our build to the main event. Hector says, how would you book Randy Orton's eventual return? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What I would do is have Randy Orton return in, let's say, a month or so to rescue Matt Riddle from Solo Sikoa. Essentially, I'd then make it known that Randy Orton is not cleared. At which point, I'd have Solo Sikoa attack Randy Orton backstage. Injure him in some way, shape or form. Give him a little more time to rest. Then I'd have Matt Riddle lose his goddamn mind and go after Solo with a vengeance. a vengeance. I'd wrap that feud up, let that one go, then have Randy Orton reintroduced after that. And then, yeah, tag teams, tag team championship, good old-fashioned go to war. This is starting to feel like a pay-per-view, this SmackDown, because we're straight into the next match. Straight into the next match. What did people make of the match for the Women's Tag Team Championships? I give it a 5. I think it was okay. There were a couple of botches, but the pace was high. Liv Morgan was a bit of a high flyer. And I think as well, I like where it's going. I like that it wasn't truncated. I like that it was fun. Peter gave it a 3. Mark gave it a 5 out of 10. Good match, but too many mistakes. Connor gives it a 3.5. Andy a 6. Dom says, best super kick, who've you got? HBK, Dolph Ziggler, and KO. I like KOs, but I think the Usos deserve to be up there. Joey says, whatever happened to Marty Scurll? Google it. Google it. James gives it a 5, says it was pretty dead. And Brad gives it a 5 as well. Pardon me. Sorry guys, I'm a bit gassy because of my cherry coke. Eric says, I like how Riddle seems way more serious. They are intentionally introducing a more serious side to his character. The idea being essentially that when Randy Orton does return, he'll bring the levity back with him. They know Randy Orton is likely to return moderately soon, and they are planning essentially to get that tag team back together. If everyone is eligible, logically, we'll get an update on Randy Orton very, very soon. In fact, I suspect the draft may be where we get some sort of update as well. Eric rates the super kicks of the Young Bucks, which is not the first time I've seen it. Ghost says, love that Kayla Braxton made an effort to mention that Backlash is hosted by Bad Bunny for the 4th or 5th time tonight. Well, to be fair, when you got Vince McMahon in your ear telling you what to say, gotta happen. Gotta happen. Hector says, but Tom, I thought they buried Liv Morgan after she lost the title. Funny how that worked out, right? Yeah, funny that, isn't it? A lot of people were really, really passionate, saying that Liv Morgan had been buried, her character had been ruined, she'd been destroyed, she'd never recover. It's not quite how it happened. It's not quite what happened. Always entertaining to see the disparity between what actually happens and what people think happens. I always found that very funny. James says, when do you see Sami and KO losing? It depends whether or not they're defending a Night of Champions. If so, soon. Unfortunately. Soon. So we have 50 minutes left of SmackDown. 2 more matches, one of which will be our main event. Matt Riddle versus Solo Sikoa in a no DQ match. We also have this upcoming match for the Intercontinental Championship between Gunther and Xavier Woods. It is the first chance Xavier Woods has had at a singles championship. Kieran, I think I know who you're speaking of. They no longer are a part of this community. Eric says, I'll be honest, I was on the Liv is Ruined train. I'm aware of that, Eric. We had conversations about this at the time. I'd imagine you were very happy with the news recently that Liv Morgan is in a pretty good position and very highly valued backstage. Dylan says, do you think Roman is overbooked? I do. I think, unfortunately, while he hasn't in any way outlived his welcome, the fact that he's part-time and he's constantly vanishing is not a good thing. And I think that's really hurting the product overall. I'd just like to see more from Roman. I'd like to see more Roman. I'd like him to be more involved. And honestly, I just think when it comes to Roman Reigns, he could give a little more back. I think he could give a little more back. Yes, Kieran, you're absolutely right. We tried to have communications about that. We tried to have conversations. Unfortunately, there was a time briefly a month or so ago when a lot of people were not happy to be here. Not happy to be here. It was affecting the growth of the channel. It was affecting the mood of the Discord. It was affecting the mood during the shows. A lot of people were getting very frustrated. So I had to make a decision as to the future of the channel, as to who to accommodate, who to listen to, and who was actively derailing it. So I made the decision. I'm happy with the decision that I made. It was all me. I made the decision personally. And there has to be a time, there has to be a moment where you say enough is enough, and this isn't the place for you. That's all it is. There's no malice or anything of that kind. It is just a case of, this isn't the stream for you. It's that simple. Connor says, to be fair, Tom, that person who's no longer in the community, I'm kind of glad. I always found them annoying and obsessed. I think a number of people were staying away from the channel because of this person in particular, but also because of other people who maybe they weren't particularly comfortable having here. I made a promise when I wrote up the good faith agreement on Discord that I would also respect that here. I had been receiving messages from people saying that they were avoiding the stream or they weren't willing to talk in a stream, and I don't want that. I don't want anyone feeling they need to block other people. I don't want anyone feeling uncomfortable. I want people to feel they belong here, but as I say, there is a general mood of this stream. A general mood of the stream, a general mood of the community that I try to work towards. And this, as I say, it is good faith, good debate, respect of other people, and remembering always that the stream isn't about you. The stream isn't about me. The stream is about wrestling. The stream is about news. The stream is about sharing a good thing. And when that gets forgotten, when that gets ignored, that is the end of that, essentially. Sean says, if Matt is officially on SmackDown, the website needs updated because Naomi's still listed on the SmackDown roster. The website does need updating. They have not formally updated it for quite a long time now. The main reason for that being the draft, they're not willing to do it just yet. Sean says, I think Raw not having a world champion is hurting the ratings. I agree with you. Ghost said, the Bloodline as a whole is overbooked, especially Roman. I agree completely. The majority of the rest of the roster is just underbooked at this point. I'd say Solo's the exception. I think he's getting well pushed, but he isn't being pushed to a aggressive level. Meanwhile, the Usos have multiple championships forever. Roman has multiple championships forever. That's a bit much for me. Hector says, my issue with Roman is that he went from smashing his opponents to ref bump, interference, win, repeat, and it's just gotten old. Yeah, the formula's become a problem. The formula very much so. Stuart says, what I liked about Triple H's draft announcement was the word superstar wasn't used when he said everyone was eligible, giving a nod to potential outside the current roster being involved. Brad says, Tom, what's your thoughts about wrestlers being forced to do things that they are uncomfortable with, like Sid jumping off the top rope? Shouldn't happen. It should not happen. And I think since Brock Lesnar did the shooting star press, it has not. Dom says, isn't it funny, The Rock, then John Cena, and now Roman, all of them called each other part-time. They did, and then all of them became even further part-time. It is very interesting seeing how that plays out. I've read that one. Peter says, I had to block their comments, but that's in the past. Let's look to the great future Tom has, and we are a part of it. We are. The hope for me is just to make a great show, led by you guys, that everyone is proud to be a part of, and everyone has fun in. I don't want to be in a position where I'm saying to people, this isn't the place for you, but when it starts to affect other people in the stream, the line has to be drawn somewhere. Dylan says, I read something about... Okay, Dylan, I'm going to need a source on what you're saying. As a general rule here, if you read something, I need to know where you read that something or I'm not going to believe it. Mark is excited for Gunther in action. The match has just kicked off. Eric says, I love Woods' braids. Connor says, anyway, on to a more pleasant topic. What is everyone's favourite chocolate bar? Mine has to be a Galaxy Caramel. Salted caramel, mind you, is my personal favourite. So Galaxy Salted Caramel, I'm right there with you. Let's talk chocolate. What does everyone love? I know wherever you are in the world there'll be different options for chocolate, but what do you like? Eric says, Tom, when do you think we see the newest Bloodline member coming in? We don't. I think the next step of the Bloodline is dissolution. Peter says, Woods has bulked up a lot. Wow. Yeah, the man's had a bit of time off, and I feel he's used it very, very well. Very well indeed. Peter likes a dairy milk, not a type of chocolate I hear a lot about. Really not. Ghost says, I put Solo on slightly more of the overbooked end because of his booking in NXT in comparison to now. Very true, it's very different. Just seems like he received some type of superpower once he entered the Bloodline. It can be a little much at times. That is a very fair point. He definitely feels like he's in a league of his own now, doesn't he? James likes a flake. I'm not there for a flake. Once you bite into the flake, it crumbles and it goes everywhere. And I'm not there for the mess. I'm just not there for it. Eric likes a crunch. I like a crunchy. Mark likes a galaxy cookie crumble. Yes, Peter Kofi is still injured. Still got an injury to his ankle, his foot, so he's spending a bit more time off. Joey, I think Edge will be back around probably SummerSlam time. That's usually what happens year in, year out for Edge. Yeah, I'm going to go Yuck, Stuart. Turkish Delight is not a chocolate bar. No. Brad likes a 100-gram bar and a peanut M&M's. Boost bars from Kieran. Not one I'm personally a fan of. There's just too much going on there for me. Mark likes any option for M&M. The crunchy ones. I also really like the salty caramel M&M's where there's just a massive block of caramel in the middle. If you'll forgive me for it, I just like eating so much chocolate that my brain starts to melt, basically. I don't think anyone's going to blame me for that. Peter likes a Yorkie. Yeah, the marketing for Yorkie wouldn't really fly today. Wouldn't really fly. Fair enough, Kieran. Yeah, that definitely did need correcting because that's a very different thing that you said. Hello, Patrick. How are you? Welcome to the show. We are heading back into WWE SmackDown now. The commercial has ended. We are starting to head towards the final third, and it's felt a little bit like a pay-per-view. I think this has been a really good SmackDown. We had the Shinsuke Nakamura vignette. We had Zelina Vega stepping up. We haven't seen Rhea Ripley or Dominic Mysterio yet. We also haven't seen, to be fair, Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens yet, which is a rarity. A real rarity at this point of time to see neither of them. So, also needs mentioning. Mark says, had a lion bar the other day. I like to have the crunchy. And Stuart saying, Yorkie ads are awesome, but yet not snowflake friendly at all. Yeah, also really not woman friendly that I think needs mentioning there, mate. Megan says, very partial to mint Aero. I like the caramel Aero as well. The smell's lovely. Hector says, Reese's Cups will always be my favourite, especially after leaving it in the freezer a while. Is that the chocolate and peanut butter one? Sean, what injury are you talking about? I've seen reports of it, but I'd need to know what you're talking about, essentially. They were Kieran. They got rid of that. Ultimately, here's the thing. Women can eat crisps. I don't know if McCoys knew that. Also, women can eat Yorkies. I don't know if Yorkie knew that, but they should. And hopefully now they do. Connor says, hold on, there is a caramel Aero. Yes, there is. Usually only comes in the big bars. The ones that used to be £1 and are now like £2.50. I've got to say, what I'm liking most about this particular match is that Xavier Woods clearly looks like he belongs in the ring with Gunther. He has bulked up a little bit. He's looking like a solo run might be coming his way. But also, as we know, he's not just a high flyer. He does have the power required. And the man can sell. New Day have largely just been putting other people over for a while now. It's a shame, I feel. It's a shame. Megan says, the caramel is good, but can't have a lot of it. Very sweet. It is. It overloads you. Sean suggests Kit Kat or Twix, but my favourite chocolate is a Butterfinger. Connor, good shout. Good shout on this, Connor, to get this conversation going. Hector says, knock on wood, but I'm very relieved it seems like the Raw after Mania was a one-off. It does seem that way. Since then, the shows have been good to great. This, again, I think this has been a great show. Megan says, women eat whatever the hell we want as long as we can afford it. Yeah. Joey says, was wrestling journalism hard for you when you first started? It's always been hard, to be honest. What I really didn't expect is that a lot of people that I respected and considered my peers are really competitive. And if I report something and they report it a couple of days later, they get really offended by it. Really offended. That I wasn't happy about. Overall, developing sources and connections, I was lucky that I had a couple to start off with. But it wasn't until I started doing this and essentially basing what I do around you, the people who watch week in, week out. It's not until I started basing my content on the people who already watch it that I started to really enjoy it. So I've always enjoyed being a wrestling journalist, but it's nice to see the end product and in many ways the end user and be able to say that I'm doing a good job. So it's a lot more satisfying now, but difficult not so much. I do remember Shorty G, and I regret the fact that I have to remember Shorty G. Peter prefers ice cream to chocolate. Stuart says Gunther's gone almost as red as Sheamus usually does. Xavier Woods, if you want to go strong style with him, he'll strong style you right back. Eric says, it's a shame New Day's injured. I'd love to see New Day versus Sami and KO. The day will come, I'm sure. Big E, I don't feel is too far away. Xavier Woods at this point is getting into the high-flying area. He's really going for it. Gotcha, Dylan. Gotcha. They're not a source, though. So that may be where you read it, but they will have sourced where they got the information from. Connor says, one thing I can do is suggest a great conversation about random stuff. I still remember the pay-per-view where I talked about a flavour of crisp, and that was our first hour and a half of the pre-show. It was an amazing show. I loved it. More of that in future, please. Xavier Woods with his fingers taped up. A leg drop on Gunther. The fans are starting to get behind him, thinking this might actually happen. It won't, but the fans are really starting to believe it. Joey says, I think Reggie got a worse gimmick now compared to his old one. I think you're right. Ghost says, Woods deserves a singles push a long time ago. The King Woods era was a joke and he's honestly underrated as a competitor. It's just people would rather bring up the leak that shall not be named when discussing him. Honestly, I've not heard much about that. After it happened, by and large, he got off fine. Largely just him, but he got off fine. Oh. Xavier Woods, a lot of counters, a lot of escapes. Another good move. Gunther escapes it. The momentum is all Xavier Woods here. And you can hear around to the fans that, oh no, that'll be it, that'll be it. Gunther's got him. Gunther's got him locked in. He's not got his legs wrapped around, that's not it. Oh, he let go. This is starting to look vicious. No, now he's got him. Now he's got him. That's it, it's over. Gunther in many ways escapes with his championship there. Great showing for Xavier Woods. Hector says, not sure if Triple H would ever book it, but I'd love to see Gunther and Imperium move over to Raw. And at SummerSlam we get Brock versus Gunther for the IC title. I think Brock would put Gunther over. From what I've been told, the main reason we haven't already seen Gunther versus Brock is because they didn't want the title on Brock, and Brock would have won. I don't know if at this point that may have changed. Megan says, why are people surprised Woods can take on a big guy? He's been training alongside Big E for literally years. Very true, very true. Sean says, Samoa Joe is available with Triple H being in contact. Triple H has already been in contact. I confirmed that one a while back. Eric says, remember when we spent most of SmackDown talking about Mommy and Daddy? Yes. Yes, I do. And I think that's fine. I'm a fan. What can I say? So up next, as we head into the last half an hour, it looks like our mid-hour draw segment will be the look back at Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn winning the championships. This will then be followed by Matt Riddle in a no DQ match against Solo Sikoa. I have every expectation that this one is going to be a great match that is unfortunately heavily overbooked. Our ratings are starting to come in. What do people think? I'm giving it a 9. When even I start to believe that Xavier Woods has got this, you know it's a great match. I'm giving that one a 9. Mark says Gunther's selling a lot in this match. And Connor says, now that gets a 8 out of 10. Andy giving it an 8. Eric gives it a 9 out of 10. Peter a 9. Brad a 9. Stuart Ridley is giving the match a 9 out of 10 as well. Megan says, great match, solid 8 out of 10. Ghost says, I've definitely heard a lot about the league. It's just consolidated on social media by the fans. It put a smudge on his career when it was never our business to begin with. And then says, I'll give it an 8. Give Woods a chance. Give Woods a chance. I wholeheartedly agree with that one. Mark says, 10 out of 10 because Gunther won. Dylan gives the match a 9. Dom giving it a 7. Leon a 9.5 out of 10. About as close as you can get. A little bit of room to grow as well. Just a little bit of extra growth room, which is always nice to see too. I feel like we've been spoiled a little bit for SmackDown. I definitely feel like we're being a little bit spoiled tonight. It's been a great show. I was exhausted earlier today. I had a very, very long nap at about 6 p.m. Very long nap. And I feel like I've been absolutely spoiled. James, when you say predictions for Ryan Garcia versus Tank, am I being led to assume that a man is fighting a tank in the same way that on like old school Street Fighter you'd have to beat up a car? Because I think the tank's going to win. Peter says, think Gunther needs to shake Woods' hand backstage. Great match. Here's the thing. Gunther is ring general. He truly believes in doing the best he possibly can in the ring. He will massively respect what Xavier Woods has done out there. And in fact, I'm going to tweet that as well. Gunther is the ring general for a reason. He believes in the purity in between those ropes. Xavier Woods just proved that he believes the same. Wonderful match. More, please. And then a link to, not my TikTok, I didn't want to link to the TikTok. And then a link to the show, in case anyone else wants to join us. Megan says, great show, but I'll have to catch up on the end later. Good night all. Hope you all have a great weekend. And you too, Megan. Hope you have a great time. We'll see you soon. Just before you do go, please consider dropping into the Discord a little bit. I'd love to get some of your input on some of the things I'm working on at the moment. There's a dedicated section that you're a part of where I'm talking about some of the things I'm planning, and I'd love to get your input. So if you have time, please do consider it. Peter says Tank Abbott, maybe? Oh, Giovanni Davis is Tank. Okay. Dom says a real true Tom answer. Do people still find it funny when I say stuff like that? Because I think eventually you're gonna stop. You're gonna stop. Ghost says, I'll be honest, once Riddle entered into the feud, I became much less interested. Feud could have stopped after Mania and it would have been I would have been satisfied. See, in that one, I agree. I think we're getting good quality matches, but I do think they should have moved on from Sami Zayn versus a Bloodline and moved into something new. Unfortunately, I don't know who that new could be. There isn't really that strong a tag division still. Eric says, do you think we get a rematch for Liv and Raquel and Chelsea and Sonya at Backlash? Not necessarily Backlash. Triple H likes to keep a small card. So if we're getting a women's championship match on the SmackDown side, I don't think we're going to get the tag team championship match, especially with how it looks like we're going to get a Raw women's championship match as well. Plus the 6-man tag, Cody versus Brock, we're starting to fill up. So I don't necessarily think so. That said, I think we'll get it on Raw. We've got a 3-hour show on Raw, might as well use it. We are getting the look back over what happened between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and the Usos at WrestleMania. Essentially, this is just a, hey, look at this match again. But also, with lots of commentary from different outlets. You will note that there is a focus not on wrestling media, because ultimately the WWE doesn't care about wrestling-specific media. They want to be seen as a legitimate sport, and the best way to do that is to get as far away from wrestling media as they possibly can, more often than not. Sean says, think WWE could hold off on EO versus Bianca to Night of Champions. I think they could. I don't necessarily think they win. They will, because that's a long time to wait. A very long time to wait. We've seen Bleacher Report, we've seen ESPN, mainstream media. And that's the thing. If I went out there, CBS, if I went out there and I started writing for a major outlet, I might actually pitch this, might go to someone and say, if I can go out there and start writing for a major wrestling outlet, I would get a lot more opportunities, and my name would undoubtedly pop up on some of these. Hector says, how much impact do you think the draft being pushed back constantly had on the Bloodline storyline? Because I feel like that's a major reason this is dragging. Quite a lot. There is quite a lot. A lot of the storylines that happened at WrestleMania have just had to keep going because nothing else has happened. Welcome, Horsey. How are you doing? Great to see you, mate. Says, good morning. Be back Monday. Been busy lately in a hospital. A few days of family during the week. Hope you're well and smash that like. Firstly, thank you very much, Horsey. Secondly, hope you and your family are okay, mate. If you need to talk at any point, by all means, just reach out. Hopefully you're able to watch some of SmackDown. Hopefully you're having fun. And yeah, hope you and yours are okay. Leon says they haven't really built up any credible teams, to be honest, other than maybe the Street Profits. Maybe the Street Profits, yeah. Ricochet and Braun Strowman, I suppose, but you're right. No teams have really been built up. Yes, Joey, I'm working on members' vids, I promise. Tomorrow I'm going to put up one about Liv Morgan. Eric says maybe Sami KO versus a Judgment Day. They are trying to pivot to that now. Brad is saying I think Vince might tell Triple H that he wants more matches on the card. Possible. We'll see how that goes. I do think since Triple H took over, every pay-per-view's been a banger and off. And I feel that if Triple H is told to get more matches on the card, he should be telling Vince to shut the hell up. The Usos are on their way down to the ring. They will be in Solo Sikoa's corner. Stuart says, to be fair, WWE are probably the only company that get those headlines, so why not use them if you have them? Which is not an unfair comment. Dylan says, do you think Cody versus Brock or the six-man tag team match will main event? I think Cody versus Brock will main event. After all, Cody Rhodes main evented WrestleMania. The Usos did not. Dylan says, I already read that one. Eric says, I just brought home my twins' kids. Your twins have had kids. Interesting, Eric. Horsey says, a hospital with father mate, as I explained in the DM. Haven't read it at the moment. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, you have already spoken to me about this. I do apologise. I briefly forgot. I do apologise for that. Backlash will feature Seth Rollins versus Omos. When was that booked? I appreciate that. Home soon, going to Wembley later, so busy. You are a busy man indeed. Backlash will also feature Bronson Reed versus Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley. Looks like we're getting more matches. So yeah. Looks like Backlash is going to be a heavy one. Note that Bad Bunny was mentioned in every single one of those. Oh, congratulations, Eric. Congratulations to you. Ghost says, the video package drives home for me that this should have been the end of the story. There were teams like Street Profits, Alpha Academy, even Ricochet and Strowman. They should have been built up so much better than they were. I think the Viking Raiders also deserve to be in that conversation. If they'd have picked up some wins, they'd be a legitimate threat to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They just didn't pick up wins. Jay and Jimmy, a promo in the middle of the ring representing the Bloodline. Sean says, I looked the Usos are the longest reigning SmackDown Tag Team Champions, but not the longest reigning Raw. That still belongs to the New Day. Not for long. Ghost says, Seth versus Omos, did I miss something? I'm asking the same. Sean says, do you see Theory retaining a Backlash? Not necessarily. I'd love it for be a moment where Bronson Reed can pick up the win. That would be a good pivot, and it would mean Austin Theory could get drafted. I'm not entirely sure what's happening right now with Jay and Jimmy. Even when both Usos are cutting a promo, the camera just loves Jay, doesn't it? The camera just loves Jey Uso. There is a natural intensity to him. So much additional acting involved. Hector says, Tom, WWE has been a very successful company and has built a very impressive social media department. So in your opinion, what do you think Endeavour can do for the WWE that they currently don't have or do properly? I think they'll help with the globalization strategy. I think they'll help provide the funding for example, the return to WWE films. And I think as much as anything, they might be able to make the pay-per-views feel even bigger than they are already. Joey's also surprised at Seth versus Omos. James says, why Seth versus Omos on the Universal title match? What the hell is going on? Well, there's not a Universal title match. Joey says they've literally had no story. Why are they having a match? Good question. Something must be going on with Seth, I tell you. Joey's genuinely confused. King says, Mr. Bunny not main eventing. I expect Bad Bunny will be opening the show. He'll be in the first match. James says, I feel like Omos has something on the WWE to get a Mania match and a random Backlash match. My suspicion would be that Seth's going to lose to Omos and then be drafted over the other side. Connor says, I feel like the Raw after Mania where Rollins got a segment cut might have built towards that match, but also I don't want that match. Horsey says, going now, mate. Be back Monday for spoiler warning. Take care and have a great weekend. And you, Horsey, mate. Like I say, I hope things are okay, and if you need to talk at any point, you know where I am. Joey believes that Vince is booking it. Dom likes the upgraded Testify. They are borrowing a lot from the Dudleys at the moment, aren't they? Dylan says, I don't think Jay's going to turn his back on Roman. If they wanted to, they would have, pardon me, done it already. Which, to be fair, can be said about most things. We're getting a recap of Matt Riddle losing to Solo Sikoa last week while Solo is being introduced. A good promo by the Usos to introduce Solo really does help him feel like a big deal as well. Of course, this has also been happening on Monday Night Raw. Matt Riddle's current position on either Raw or SmackDown is not clearly defined. He's either on Raw or SmackDown, and that's kind of all we know at this point. But we're having a nice little war going on between he and Solo, and honestly, it's great for Solo, and it's good for the Usos not to be constantly involved. It's great for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who we've not seen anything of so far tonight. I'd imagine they're going to be involved in this, but they might also have a week off. After all, we do have the LWO, who can back Riddle up. As a no DQ match goes, surely someone's going to be backing him up. So this is going to be our second to last commercial break. We're going into the last 20 minutes of what has been a really good SmackDown. It does feel like a pay-per-view the way that they've given us 5 matches, most of which have been great. The women's match unfortunately didn't quite hit the same heights, but it was still a good match and well worth watching. We know we're going to get quality here as well. So I do feel like they're just giving us a bit of a treat. Triple H likes to do this every now and then. He does it on NXT as well, where they have a pay-per-view that's not a pay-per-view. Just to get a few big matches going, pop a rating at times, make the championships feel like a big deal as well. Eric says, I feel like if anyone turns, it might be Jimmy. Nope. I don't see it. Stuart says, the seeds are getting sown for the Bloodline split weekly by Heyman in his promos. No sign of Paul Heyman this week, which is also interesting. I don't know if necessarily he may have time off, but if people are getting time off, now's the time. I think it also speaks to the overall confidence in the Usos at the moment that they can essentially be the Bloodline without Roman or Paul Heyman. You can separate entirely from that. Hector says, I'm so happy for Zelina. She's getting a shot at the women's title. It's a long time coming. I agree. The last time she had an opportunity, I believe, was against Sasha Banks way back when. Ghost says, I'm going to throw the HBK Jannetty analogue out the window. Jay reminds me of Jeff, fan favourite, big storylines. Jimmy reminds me of Matt, injury prone, too much focus on his relationship by fans, underrated. Meet the newly named Hardy Uso. Actually, let's call them the Uso Boys. To be fair, that could definitely work, much the same way as Beastie Boys. It's the Uso Boys. Do 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 do. You gotta fight. Do do for your right. To Uso. I can get behind that. I like that, Ghost. I apologise for anyone who did have to hear my singing. Also, it's nearly 3 a.m. here, so I did not sing loud. Leon says, I wonder if Eric Young will be in the upcoming draft because he's apparently been signed since November, according to Fightful. I can confirm, and I had actually been reporting that one for a while. He has been signed for a long, long time. Alyssa, I'd imagine with a crossroads. Mark says, just seen on Twitter, WWE have announced for Backlash Seth versus Omos. Why? I have no idea. Makes no sense. Eric says, which one is Solo if they're the Hardy Boys? Lita, obviously. Lita. Joey says, I guess Vince isn't watching the show. He must think Triple H has been booking Omos every week. Vince does watch the shows and he does look at the scripts. It's interesting to, I need to find out whether he's been involved in this one. Connor suggests you got to fight for your right to be Usi. Well, to be fair, Jay's not been Usi for a long time. Long time. Hogan says, last title match per cage match was September 2020 versus Asuka. Dom says, don't forget to hit that like button or we have 2 words for you. Usos Boys. The rematch between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos is, of course, I completely forgot about this, the main event for next week's draft edition of SmackDown. Draft begins next Friday. They've shown everyone there. That was a hell of a big roster. So, time for Matt Riddle to enter with a big, long bro. Again, I'm interested to see if he brings backup with him. I think the LWO are in spot for it. Oh, Matt Riddle attacking Solo Sikoa from behind. I did not see that one coming. There is definitely an additional intensity to Matt Riddle there. He just had to dodge the referee. Taking the opportunity to do some damage here. Slight botch there between the two. Solo wanting to take over on offense earlier than Matt Riddle wanted him to. I didn't see Brian there either, Connor. Good spot. Khalid says, Tom, I can't wait to see my watch along for the WWE draft next week. I'm excited for it. I'm very excited for it. Keen says, Gable Steveson should feud with Theory. Gable Steveson should turn up to work. Eric also singing, you got to fight for your right to be Usi. Usi's part of the lexicon now, isn't it? Those t-shirts must have flown. Must have flown. And there's been no mention of Usi since. No mention at all. Alyssa says, who faces Roman Reigns at SummerSlam? Probably still Cody. I've told you that one before. Khalid wants to see Bray Wyatt moved over to Monday Night Raw. I think ultimately it doesn't matter much as long as he's given the room to script. But, so a question. Bray Wyatt fan or not Bray Wyatt fan, but I want to ask you guys this. If you're in charge of Bray Wyatt, do you let him script himself or do you tell him he has to be scripted? What's your opinion on this? You have the choice between letting Bray Wyatt script himself and all the risks that comes with, or booking him entirely yourself. What would you choose? Ghost says, Solo actually gives me Rebby Hardy vibes. Heart healing and grabs your attention. Is it just the fact that the Uso boys may just be broken? Delete, 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 delete. I don't think you're a Hardy Boys fan, Ghost. We are going hardcore. Also, to be clear, I don't see the Usos right now. I would like it if this is just a knockdown, drag-out war between the two men. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd like it. Matt Riddle went for a chair, but Solo Sikoa got to him nice and quick, and we're talking kendo sticks. We have 15 minutes to go, and yet we're still already going absolutely battering. Alyssa, once again, already commented on that one. I think it's going to be Cody. Dom would let him script his own stuff. Connor would let him script his own stuff. Mark, boo. Joey says, almost gets the match while having zero story with Seth. Yeah, apparently so. Eric lets him script himself. Everything, Hogan. Every single thing. Bray would be scripting everything. Brad says, a little of both. A little of both was not an option. You either let him script himself entirely or you take over. Which is your preference? Khalid also wants Bray to script himself. Joey says Bray's all over the place. Seems like he never knows where he wants to go with his character. Bruce says, hi Tom. Hello Bruce, how you doing? Keane suggests that WWE needs to take control, and Mark believes at the moment that Mark himself could do a better job than Bray Wyatt. I do want to say a quick thank you. We've gained 3 subscribers since the show started. We are now only 3 subscribers away from 2,380. If you've not subscribed yet, but you're enjoying the show, please do remember to hit subscribe. Briefly, the fans were convinced we were about to get tables, but Solo Sikoa has made sure to ruin that for them. Stuart says Riddle should go back to shorts with no boots. He looks like he's off for a swim in the budgie smugglers. To be fair, the shorts he had were also real tight. Brad, that's called half and half. Half and half is not an option. He either writes everything or you take over for him. That's your options. Keem says, I want to see him wrestle, to be honest. Enough of the gimmicks for a while. You don't get a choice in that, Khalid. If Bray Wyatt does not want to play Fiend, you cannot make him. Bruce says, Tom and the community would do better with WWE and AEW. I'm not 100% on that one, I tell you. There are some very good writers in WWE. There's been some very good storylines. There really has. That I think needs respecting. There we go, Brad. Gotcha. Hogan says, I guess it depends on who's scripting him. It's either you or it's Bray Wyatt. Bruce would also take over. Connor says, I think Bray knows exactly where he wants the character and who he wants to fight, but I don't think they are letting him. That's the issue. And that is definitely part of this. Bray Wyatt did know exactly what story he wanted to tell, but unfortunately he was then told, no, you're wrestling Brock Lesnar. Bobby Lashley. Girl says, correction, I'm a massive Jeff Hardy fan. It's been a rough 20 years for me, but I'm still here. Kinda. And also says, I'd book everything for Bray. As we can see, what was last shown from Bray was not good. And I agree with that. Unfortunately, it's the same as anything, same as any Bray Wyatt story. The second he steps foot in the ring, it all starts to fall apart. We've just broken 300 views, which is lovely. We have 22 likes already, which is, again, quite lovely. And if I pop over to where it says the chat rate section, oh, we peaked at 10 chat rate. Absolutely lovely. 10 chat rate basically means, by the way, that there are 10 comments per minute. 10 comments per minute means a chat rate of 10. My highest ever chat rate was on night 2 of WrestleMania, and it was a 24. 24 comments in a minute. Imagine having to read all of those. I did, by the way. It was great. Hopefully we continue this, because I do feel that added a lot to pay-per-views. So we'll be doing more of that going forwards. Joey says, did Bray want to feud of Uncle Howdy before it got changed? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Khalid wants Bray Wyatt to fight new people. Bobby Lashley would have been a new person. Would you be fine with that? Because Bray apparently wasn't. Hogan says, hard to say. Really liked everything up until Howdy appeared on the screen, which is really just that first promo. Yeah. Once it got spooky, I lost my interest. It's Bray. Has to be. Keem says, does Bray have matches longer than 15 minutes? Haven't seen one in a very long time. Mark says, I'd make Bray attack everyone and everything. While he does it, build a group of darkness and take control of a show. He doesn't sell anything until WrestleMania. So you want a Ministry of Darkness Bray Wyatt. Hogan says, I like the idea of Bray just playing Wyndham Rotunda. Bruce, it is currently 10 to 3 in the morning where I am in the UK. So it is 2:50 in the morning. Sean says, think it's possible they are waiting on Bray to return Alexa? Yes. And in fact, I've already reported that at the beginning of March, I reported that Alexa Bliss was waiting on the return of Bray Wyatt to script her return for her. Girl says Bray was at his strongest in the Eater of Worlds era. The Fiend was a good concept, just got way too messy. I agree. I've got the Era of Wyatt t-shirt, when I personally loved everything he was doing. We are into our last 10 minutes. The no DQ match is going. I liked that camera angle, by the way. I very much liked it as a slow zoom. There are still chairs. There are still kendo sticks. The crowd seem into this one. There is still no one at ringside as well, so we're not overbooked just yet. The Worst Channel is asking about whether someone will be fired. I don't comment on that. I don't see the benefit in saying whether or not I think someone will be fired. I think that's prejudice in the outcome. So I'm just not going to respond to that one, to be completely honest. But welcome to the show, mate. Yeah, Bruce, that's a job, unfortunately. WrestleMania, for example, I was up until 5 a.m. every morning. Good stuff. Khalid says, Tom Otis said in an interview he'd love to fight Bray Wyatt in an interview. Hogan says, if I really had my way, Bray would be more of a manager, dude, charismatic, he can talk. There has to be a way to utilise that. So you're suggesting maybe he forms some sort of group? Community? There's another word for that. I can't remember what it is. I swear he did something like that. I would like to see Bray Wyatt in this incarnation against maximum male models. But actually, seriously. Just literally ruining Otis and making him feel like he was forever made ugly, even though he isn't. And he was a model and he was beautiful, but now he's been deformed and he's disgusting. He won't have been. It's completely in his head. But beautiful people, like the people who are really, really proud of their supposed quote-unquote beauty, tend to think about slight issues becoming real big problems. No, Connor, that's not it. It's not a family. He's never been like... There's never been some sort of Bray family. Like... I don't know. I don't know. I like that now that they can't do headshots with chairs, they just throw chairs at faces. Just as a general rule, I like it. They're getting as close as they can without doing so. Alyssa, there are always people who think people will lose in matches. There always have been, there always will be. Cult Brad, yes. The Wire Cult. That's it. Keem says if Judgment Day worked, Bray, Bliss and Howdy could do something. They absolutely can do something. And they are planning to do something. Bray Wyatt will return. It's just unfortunately, at the moment, not much. Exploder suplex through chairs. This is a really fun match so far. Joey says, I feel sorry for Seth. Is this the best they've got for him? Right now, yes. The draft will tell us more about the plans for Seth. Connor says it's also possible maybe you can put a number to this Wyatt thing, like 5 or 7. The Wyatt 9. You're right. What was the point of that? He introduced all of these people. He was making cryptic references to the Wyatt 6. And then, as usual with Bray, nothing happened. Solo Sikoa is escaping Matt Riddle. I've noticed that a table is set up on the outside. Riddle is still in a good spot. And Solo has taken back control. Like the UK government thought they were doing a Brexit, Solo Sikoa has taken back control. There you go, Connor. We've worked it out. The Cult of the Nine. The Cult of the Nine. Khalid says, Tom, if Bray Wyatt gets drafted to Raw, hope he does a good show for 3 hours. Bray for 3 hours? Nah, mate. I don't want that. I mean, he gets a bit self-indulgent at times, but you give him 3 hours, I don't want that. Looks like we're going to lose a table. This is definitely feeling like a... Riddle tips the table onto Solo Sikoa. This definitely feels like a pay-per-view. Not going to lie. Got that pay-per-view vibe. Joey says we'll get a bunch of Uncle Howdy video packages or a bunch of nothing being said. The Usos have arrived. They are on the attack with 5 minutes left. Bruce says after the draft, will there be SmackDown belts then Raw belts? Yes, there will. Much as there is at the moment. Naturally, with 5 minutes left, if Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are in the building, this would be the time for them to get involved. Failing that, the LWO. Or not Riddle fighting off the Usos. Not done too much yet, but he might be able to survive it. Brad says Raw would run over by 6 hours every week. We'll see, Khalid. Bray keeps going backwards. And that's what the WWE don't like. That's when they start to step in. Solo Sikoa has emerged from the table. Maybe a bit too quick for me. Ghost says, I hope the Backlash match is the finale between the Bloodline and Sami and KO. I don't mind long-term booking, but Triple H's method of just throwing long-term booking at everything makes everything drag a bit. Adding someone else to it does not make it any better. Uranagi on the apron. Personally, I feel that Sami will be moved officially to Raw. Thus, Sami and KO will both be on Raw. The Bloodline will stay on SmackDown, and that will separate them enough. Sean says if they do split the world titles in the draft, is it possible Roman says he won't give up one of the titles? Well, he won't have to. If they split the titles, he'll keep one. Matt Riddle escapes a Samoan Spike. Meltzer was saying for a long time Solo's first loss would be to Roman. At the moment, that seems very much like it's going to be happening. Matt Riddle has taken the loss. He's been taken out by Solo Sikoa. It was a clothesline that finished it. The Usos are about to get into the ring. Ah yes, now they're looking for a table or something to put Riddle through. Honestly, the distraction from the Usos didn't have that big an impact. In many ways, they did trust Solo to kind of go over clean there. Ghost says Solo's truly the smaller, younger Umaga. He's doing a great job. He's doing a fantastic job, I've got to say. I like the street champ branding as well. Riddle put through a table. I don't think anyone's coming to save him. Thank you, Sean, for reminding me. Solo's first loss was to Cody Rhodes after I reported that he was going to be wrestling Cody Rhodes. And they built to WrestleMania. You remember that? You remember that? I think Meltzer watches spoiler warning. So as we wrap up SmackDown, first question. How do we rate that main event? The no DQ match between Solo Sikoa and Matt Riddle. I think they went to a good amount of no DQ. They used the table at least at the end. They used the announce table. There was a few chairs, a few kendo sticks, but there was still plenty of actual wrestling content in there. Also, they used the fact that they could use stuff on the apron as well, which was pretty effective. A little bit on the outside. I wouldn't rate it higher than Woods versus Gunther because I never at any point believed that Matt Riddle was winning. And I do think having the Usos get involved cheapened it, the fact that it wasn't a clean win. So I am going to give that one an 8. An 8 out of 10. Thank you guys, Brad, Connor, and Mark reminding me as well. What do we got? Brad has given it a 9.9. Dom a 9. Stu has given it an 8.5. Mark gave it a 10 as well. Connor has given it a 7.25. Bruce an 8.7. I love when we go like into fractions. I really do. Leon gives it an 8. Khalid an 8 as well. Khalid says, I can't wait for spoiler warning on Monday. And Connor wants to face Cody Rhodes. I'll get him in the cupboard, right? I'll get him in the cupboard and we'll go for it. Or should I Americanize this and say that you're in the closet, mate? I'll say we're covered. Eric says, I think Riddle should have won because he's been losing a lot lately. I suspect Riddle will be pinning Jimmy Uso in the 6-man tag. Ghost gives the match a 6.8. I'm just tired of seeing the same thing. We have essentially seen Riddle versus Solo since the Raw after Mania at this point. And yeah, it's not really warming to me, unfortunately. One more question. Yes, Christian, absolutely we are. One more question I want to ask. How do we rate SmackDown? I am giving that SmackDown an 8.5. I really enjoyed it. The wrestling quality was high. The company was good. And honestly, when the wrestling quality is high, even the promo packages are good, the hype packages are good, there weren't too many recaps. I didn't feel like there were too many commercial breaks in there. That flew for me. And that flew in a show where we peaked at 31 viewers. So if we'd have had a show where we peaked at 65, even when we peak at a 65 viewer show, there are still moments where I start to feel, oh, I should probably be saying something now, but there's nothing really prompting me, and maybe people aren't really feeling this show. People felt that show. You guys felt that. You guys clearly enjoyed it, and there was a lot worth talking about. So I really enjoyed that. See you on Monday, Khalid. Ghost has given SmackDown an 8 as well. Moved pretty smooth. Andy gives it an 8. Connor gives it a 7. Stuart an 8.5. Leon a 7.5. Bruce an 8.5. And Christian an 8. Now, Mark has given a 9.10 for the particular match for Riddle versus Solo. Only way it wasn't a 10 was the botches in the first hour. Oh, sorry, 9 out of 10 for SmackDown in general, particularly for the two matches, Riddle versus Solo and Gunther versus Woods. But there were a few botches in the first hour that took it away from being a 10. I will be back. As you guys know, you will still have the usual collection of shorts and TikToks from me over the course of the next few days. I will be doing... I keep saying it, and I do apologise that it's not happened yet. I will be doing a video that is members only as regards Liv Morgan and the reporting that I've done over her for the last few days. So if you are a member, you'll be able to check that out shortly. But until then, I want to say a huge thanks to all of you for keeping me company, keeping me awake, alert and spry. And thank you to all of you for your time as well. At this point, as usual, I will say that I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.